Okay, we are just going to do a quick video on this because I've had a few people request it. So this week you are going to lay out a floor plan for a house, right? So in the top right left-hand corner, this is my really fast version of a house, this thing here. All right, it doesn't have to be complicated. Take a look at the the assignment. It has a few more details in there, but you should have things like a bathroom. You should have things like a living room. Put your appliances in, right? So if this is my kitchen, I could also put in like my stove. I could put in my refrigerator, stuff like that. If this is my bedroom, you might want to put in your bed. Maybe you've got a chair in there as well, right? Maybe a little table. You might have a kitchen table, whatever you want. And your living room, maybe you've got like a rock climbing wall. This is the part where you get to kind of play around and have some fun. So maybe that's going to be my rock climbing wall, right? So the first thing you need to do in this is to add up the total number of squares that your house takes up. This also includes, like, let's say if I put in a deck. Okay, so if I put in a deck out there, if I have all that kind of stuff. Okay, so you want to add up the total number of squares for your entire design. I'm going to assume that mine is 50. So what does that mean? That means on all of my fractions, everything is going to be out of 50, because what we're calculating is the percentage of the house each room takes up. So that's my little layout. The very first thing that this is going to ask you is the name of the room. So let's do the red room. We'll do red. So the red room for me is going to be, the red room is going to be the bedroom. And then it's going to ask you how many squares it takes up. Well, if this was a grid and I would go through, count them all, okay, I'm saying that this was 5 squares that it took up. That's what that one, that means how many centimeters squares does it take up? It's 5. So that's the second column. The next one asks you to do is to put it in a fraction of the room, the part out of the whole. So remember what I said. My whole property, the whole design was out of 50 squares. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this number here, the 5, and I'm going to go 5 out of 50. The next box asks you to reduce it. Now this work you don't have to do on the page. You can have a scrap piece of paper. So if I go 5 out of 50, well, I know I could divide that by 5 and that by 5. I get 1 out of 10. Well, that's pretty small. That's about as small as it's going to get. So this is going to be 1 out of 10. The next one asks for the raw decimal. So this happens when I take the top number and I divide it by the bottom number. So in this case, it's going to be fairly straightforward. It's going to be 0.1. But let's say we have something like, well, I'll do another one where it's a little harder. Okay. The next column here says the rounded decimal to the hundredths. So in this one, I have to take it to the hundredths. So remember, hundredths is the second place value. So this is where I'm rounding to. And in this case, because I didn't have one, I need to make sure that I add this 0. That 0 now puts me into the hundredths. And why is that important? Because the next one asks you to write this as a fraction out of 100. Well, I know the second one here is the hundredths. So this is going to be 10 out of 100. The last column is going to ask us for the percentage. So percent literally means out of 100. So here you'll notice that this is out of 100. So all I need to do next is write it as 10%. Okay? So we do that for each room. Let's modify this so it's a little bit harder. Let's say this one was 22. Let's say this blue room was 22. So as a demonstration purpose, it's not going to affect my project because I don't have a project. Okay, so let's run it. So the blue is the living room. So if you do have it color coordinated, whoa, that was trippy. If you do have it color coordinated, you can put your colors in. If not, no big deal. So this is going to be my living room. is 22 squares. That out of the whole is going to be 22 out of 50. So now I have to reduce that. So I know I could divide it by 2. That's going to give me 11 out of 25. So now the decimal on this one is not quite so pretty. So I go to my calculator, I type 11 divided by 25, I get 0.44. It's not actually all that bad. Let's say it was 0.4061. I want you to take it to 5 decimal places if it just goes on and on and on and on and on. If it doesn't, just leave it as it is. So here, again, I would need to round it to the hundredth spot because that's what my percentage is out of. The next number is a 0, so it stays. It's going to be 0.44. That's how I round it. That's a rounded decimal to the hundredth spot, second decimal place. Out of 100, this is going to be 44 hundredths, right? That equals that. And now my percentage is literally the number that's out of 100. So there you have it. So I want you to do that for a minimum, say 9 things. You may have to use your bed, you may have to use your table, but that's what I'm looking for. And once you're finished, you're going to take a picture of your house layout and that worksheet that's you're working on that has all of these different categories. Put it into one PDF and upload it to D2L. Thanks everybody. Hope that helps.